Welcome back. Our next character was created from the aftermath of the first game. What was supposed to be a legacy of Mickey Mouse and all that he has done for the wasteland for everyone to see, with a host guiding the way, now turned into a rundown attraction with broken bits and pieces everywhere, including the host. This is Abe. If I can be honest here, I'm not really 100% sure of the origins of Abe. Usually, the epic Mickey games are pretty clear to what they're referencing, but with him, he doesn't seem familiar with another Disney character. However, I think I know what you're thinking by now. Well, if it's an animatronic host named Abe, then it must be based on another animatronic host named Abe, Lincoln. Specifically, former US President Abraham Lincoln from the Disneyland attraction, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. During the 50s, at the beginning of Disneyland's time, Walt Disney originally wanted to make an expansion at the Main Street USA that would be a tribute to all the American presidents past and present. But the idea was scrapped because the technology wasn't on par to what Walt wanted. However, they did manage to make this idea happen later on with the Hall of Presidents at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Anyways, the Imagineers decided to, instead of making all the presidents, they just put their focus on Walt's childhood hero, Abraham Lincoln. The idea didn't fully go until 1962, when Disney was approached to do some shows for the 1964 New York World's Fair. In there, Walt and his Imagineers created 4 new shows for the fair that each ended up being major hits. There's Magic Skyway, presented by Ford, Progress Land, presented by General Electric. You may know it more today as the Carousel of Progress. It's a Small World, presented by Pepsi, and of course, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, where the first ever human audio animatronic, modeled after the president, gives out a speech that consists of many different speeches said by Lincoln himself, combined into one with the voice of Royal Dano as the president. Since it was proven to be a great success in New York, they decided to make another one at Disneyland for the park's 10th anniversary. Throughout its legacy, it has been going on and off to be replaced with some movies about Disney and the park itself. It happened in 1973 when they replaced the show with The Walt Disney Story. Then 2 years later, they decided to keep both, with The Walt Disney Story featuring Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. But then in 2001, Disney decided to update the attraction with a new setup. Lincoln got a new makeover and a new voice by Warren Burton, make the show focus more about the American Civil War, and Disney somehow decided to give it a longer title called The Walt Disney Story featuring Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, The Journey to Gettysburg. Are you sure that's not enough, Disney? Can I help you add in a bit more? Why don't we just call it The Walt Disney Story featuring Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, The Journey to Gettysburg, and the story of the American Civil War, including a speech from Mr. Lincoln himself with songs from the American Adventure Show at Epcot in Walt Disney World. Then all of this has been scrapped for a short movie once again in 2005, this time with Disneyland, The First 50 Magical Years, starring Steve Martin and Donald Duck for the 50th anniversary of Disneyland. Then, in 2009, they once again brought back the show called The Disneyland Story presenting Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, with a small museum of the park and an updated version of the show with an abridged biography of the president, newly discovered voice work done by Royal Dano, and Disney's first autonomatronic, or auto-animatronic. What is said to be the most advanced version of animatronics yet, able to move his lips, show emotions, and make dramatic movements. Now I could easily end it off there and move on to Abe in Epic Mickey 2. But like I said before, I'm not fully sure where he came from. Maybe Abe is not based on Lincoln at all. He could be based on another animatronic host. There's the Timekeeper, voiced by Robin Williams, where he hosts the Circle Vision show of the same name with his assistant, Nine-Eye. There's Tom Morrow, voiced by Nathan Lane, who's the mayor of Tomorrowland that would greet guests into innovations at Disneyland, and Tom Morrow 2.0, who is the one at Epcot in Walt Disney World. There can be many different places to who or where Abe came from. in the end, he could be just a character that was made for the game and I just wasted my time talking about unrelated crap. But if I may explain myself, why I was so confused to where Abe came from... What the fridge is with that Jimmy Stewart impression? It feels like the guys who made this game got it from somewhere, but if it's from Disney, then what? Was Jimmy Stewart supposed to voice Lincoln in the show?
Neither let us be slandered from our duty by false accusations against us, nor frightened from it by the menaces of destruction to the government, nor the dungeons to ourselves. Let us have faith that right makes might, and in that fate, let us to the end dare to our duty as we'd understand it. You know what I'm saying, pal?
Anyways, in Epic Mickey 2, after the events of the first game, Gremlin Prescott was in charge of creating a diorama of those events along with the automatic branch engineer, or Abe for short. When you arrive there though, it seems all broken down and Abe is just malfunctioning. What you can do is either completely destroy the rest of the dioramas along with axing off Abe, which will reward you with new pants, or you can restore the place, which will fix up Abe along with getting you a gold pin. Not only that, but then Abe will also tell you about what happened to the place and where did Prescott go. And while you stay after you fixed everything, Abe will go back to his hosting job. But then at one point, when I was playing the game, I wanted to check a few things before moving on to the next level. And then, Abe struck my curiosity when he suddenly said, and I quote,
But what Mickey didn't know was that there was another blot, a storm blot, one that could possibly destroy all of Wasteland.
Wait, you mean this storm blot? That rejected concept of the mix of Oswald and the Shadow Blot? Were they thinking of actually bringing that idea back if they were to make an Epic Mickey 3? Mr. Spectre, you might not care about it anymore, but what were you planning for Epic Mickey 3?